Hi, today we are going to do an egg physics activity. Your teacher should have provided you with a worksheet, and I want to start off our activity by reading you the problem that we are going to try to solve today. So it's, oh no, a busy chef put all of their eggs in one bowl. Which ones are hard-boiled and which ones are raw? Let's use science to solve that problem. So we have 3 experiments that we are going to do today, and I want you to record your observations from each of those experiments on the worksheet that your teacher gave you. So I have 2 eggs. One I labeled egg A, and one I labeled egg B. I don't know which one's raw, I don't know which one's hard-boiled, but there's one of each. And so, as I said, we're going to do 3 experiments. And y'all are, from those experiments, we're going to try to figure out which one's the hard-boiled and which one's the raw. I think this is a great activity because I have done this before. I've boiled eggs and then I put them in the carton and I put them back in the refrigerator, and a couple of days later, I can't remember which is which. So now I know I can use physics to try to solve that problem for me. So the 3 experiments we're going to do, we're going to take each egg and we're going to spin them. Then we're going to take each egg and we're going to put them in some bowls of water. And then the final experiment is we are going to candle them. And after we do each of those experiments, you're going to write your observations on your worksheet. And then based on those observations, we're going to try to figure out which one was the hard-boiled and which one was the raw one. So let's go ahead and get started with our first activity, which is spinning the eggs. Okay, so our first experiment is going to be spinning the eggs. And I have egg A here and egg B. And what we're going to do is we're going to gently spin each egg, and then we're going to quickly but firmly put our finger on the center of the egg to try and stop it. And we'll do this 2 times with each egg so that we can compare our results and make sure that we're getting consistent observations. Then on the worksheet that your teachers provided you, you will answer these 2 questions. The first one is, I discovered that, and you'll write your discoveries, your observations. And then based on my observations in this experience, and you will decide, okay, I think egg A is the raw or the hard-boiled, egg B is the raw or the hard-boiled. Okay, so you'll decide based on your observations which one you think is the hard-boiled, which one you think is the raw, A or B. Okay, so let me adjust my camera and I will spin the eggs and we'll decide what we'll talk about our observations, okay? Okay, so here is egg A. So I'm going to spin it and stop. Spin it again. Spin it, stop. Okay, so that was egg A. Now let's do egg B. So we'll spin it, stop. Spin it, stop. Okay, let's do these one more time. So here's egg A again. Spin it, stop. Spin it, stop. Okay? And one more time with egg B. Spin it, stop. Spin it, stop. So, based on what we just did, what I noticed was that egg A, let me get this straightened. Okay, so egg A, to me, spun a little bit faster and a little quicker, moved around. Egg B, to me, was a lot slower and very wobbly. It almost didn't even spin when I tried to do it a couple of the times. So go ahead and write those observations in your journal. And if you're doing this yourself, do your spinning and record your observations based on what you saw just now. And then we will move on to the next experiment. All right? Okay, so now we're going to do the second experiment, and this is the floating egg. So let me move this a little bit so you can see better. Hold on. Okay, so as you can see, I have 2 bowls of water here, and one of them is just plain tap water, and the other one is tap water, but it has about 1/2 cup of salt in it, so to make it salt water. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna float egg A in both of them and see what our observations are, and then we'll float egg B in both of them and see what we think. So first we're gonna start with egg A. So I'm gonna place egg A very gently into the clear water. And as you can see, it basically just sank to the bottom. All right, so let's go ahead and let's put it in the salt water. And it looks like it is floating. The small end is down, and the larger, wider end that has the air cell in it of the egg is floating at the top. So it looks like, let me turn a little bit more so you can see, that our egg A floats when you put it in the salt water. So it sank to the bottom in the clear water, and it floats in the salt water. So okay, so now let's go ahead and let's do egg B in both of them. So egg B, we're going to put it in our regular tap water, and it looks like it basically does the same thing. It just sinks to the bottom and lays on the bottom of the regular tap water. So now let's put it in our salt water. All right, and it basically does the same thing. It is just floating in that water. Same thing, the pointy end is down, the end with the air cell is up at the top. And so based on experiment 2, the floating egg, I don't see a lot of difference in the eggs that I'm using in my bowls. If you're doing this in your classroom or at home, see if you get different results. Put them in just a plain bowl of tap water and in a bowl of tap water with about 1/2 cup or so of salt, and see if you get different results. But in my observation, we basically have the same thing happening in both bowls with both our eggs. So that is the floating egg. Record your observations on your worksheet, and we'll move on to the third experiment. Okay, for this next experiment, this last experiment, I'm in a dark room. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna candle the eggs, which means I'm gonna take a little flashlight, I'm gonna put it to one end of the egg, and we'll see what the egg looks like once we put that light to it. This is something we're gonna do in a few days with our incubator eggs. We're gonna do a candling with them to see if we can see the embryo growing and stuff like that. And we'll talk about that more in a couple of days when it's time. But today we're just gonna go ahead and candle egg A and egg B and see what they look like with a flashlight to them. So I'm gonna turn off this other flashlight. All right, so this is egg A. And you can see part of it, the part that's closest to the flashlight, is glowing, but the other end here, you can see my finger, is real dark. All right, so the light really isn't penetrating through the egg. What you're kind of seeing is just where I have the flashlight on the egg, and that's kind of lighting up. All right, so that's egg A. Now let's do egg B. So this is egg B, and as you can see, egg B just glows a nice bright yellowy orange, right? The whole egg lights up. So that is egg B. So record those two things in your on your worksheet, and then we'll get back together and we'll decide what we think is, which one is the raw and which one is the hard-boiled. Now that we have completed our 3 experiments, we did the spinning experiment, the floating the eggs in water, and then we did a candling experiment. And so now that we've completed all those experiments, we're going to see if we can make a decision or a conclusion as to which egg is our hard-boiled egg and which egg is our raw egg. So I hope that while you were doing the 3 experiments or watching them on the video, that you made some conclusions and some observations, and that led you to make a guess or a hypothesis as to which egg you thought was the hard-boiled egg and which egg you thought was the raw egg. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and crack egg A and see which one it is. So I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit because I do have a bowl to crack this in case this is our hard-boiled egg, our raw egg, it doesn't go all over my counter. So let's go ahead and crack that. And egg A is our hard-boiled egg. Is that what you thought? And if so, what made you guess that? Now let's go ahead and let's crack egg B just to make sure that it is indeed our raw egg. And same thing, I'm going to do it over this bowl. And it is. Egg B was our raw egg. So based on the experiments and what we now know, which experiment do you think is the best one for the busy chef to use in order to decide which of his eggs were hard-boiled and which ones were raw? In my opinion, I think the 3rd experiment, the candling experiment, was the best experiment because that was the one that we saw the most difference in. When we shined the light on egg A, it was not real easy to see through. And when we shined it on egg B, the egg lit up with a bright yellow-orange glow. Now the reason for that is the difference between solids and liquids. When we started, both of our eggs have liquid in them. But when we cook an egg, it turns that liquid into a solid. And that is our hard-boiled egg. And it becomes a white, opaque, which means it can't be seen through, material inside the egg, as opposed to the raw egg, which stayed a liquid. And so the light could shine through that liquid, but it couldn't shine through the solid material in our hard-boiled egg. Now in a few days, we will be doing some candling of our eggs in the incubator. And the difference between the solid and the liquid is what's going to help us know what is going on inside our egg. If we candled on day 1 or 2, our egg would glow like our raw egg did because it's still a liquid in there. And that's why we wait till day 12, 13 or so to do our candling. Because by that point, if there is a baby chick growing in the egg, it will have started to fill up the space inside the egg inside the shell, and it will become a solid. The baby chick will be a solid. And so you will be able to see that darkness in your egg when we candle. So we'll look at that in a couple of days, and we'll get to see what is going on in our eggs. And if they are still all liquid, then we know that there is no baby chick growing in that egg. I hope that you enjoyed this activity and you learned something, and maybe the next time you have some eggs that you boiled and you forget which ones they were, you can grab a flashlight and do some candling and decide which are your boiled eggs and which are your raw eggs. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.